Welcome back, boxing fans, to another great show with Sean on boxing. So, we're going to be talking about boxing this week, some things that popped up in the news cycle, and other interesting topics of discussion. I'm going to give my quick predictions on this week's boxing as well. So, make sure you stay tuned to that, and we'll be right back after this short announcement. If I can find it. Welcome back. So, this week, at least we haven't had any, big controversies. Obviously, we haven't had any top fighters taking knees and, referees giving them a pass and all this kind of controversy come out. Obviously, last week we had some really good fights and some good results, some fun fights to watch. And then obviously some cards that, people paid attention to but weren't overly enamored with. Example, Berlanga fighting some dude who's been basically in prison for the last 10 years. I mean, nobody was enthralled by that. Nobody was shocked or surprised by the decision. But obviously, we're going to be talking about Berlanga as well because he's come out post-fight and put himself into the news cycle. So we're going to be talking about him and more. So make sure you pay attention to that. So let's just open up this PPT and get to it right now. There we go. So obviously, the one controversy we have had as well last week, not so much this week, even though there's some rollover from it, is the whole Devin Haney situation, and that he literally labeled himself a villain, and how some people are using this to push their typical racial narratives in the YouTube boxing community. Whereas the reality is, as I said, on this card, he is anything but the villain. But at the same time, in this fight, he is kind of the villain. When you compare Devin Haney to a guy like Ramirez, who literally went to bat for, the farmers in Southern California and everything else, he's really been a great community service representation. Whereas Devin Haney, with a lot of things he's done, is the opposite of that. Not that I'm bad mouthing or hating on Haney. Young kids make stupid moves. I've talked about how if I was in a similar position and was making millions of dollars and getting a ton of attention, I indefinitely would be making stupid decisions as well. Harder Coil, what's up? So I'm not hating on Devin Haney. I just think it's ironic that people are making more of this than they need to. The reason Devin Haney is doing this is because Devin Haney is trying to get more popular, make more money in the sport of boxing, and he can only do that through controversy and social media and things of this nature. Because as far as his fighting style, he's not the kind of fighter that people are attracted to. He's not a big puncher. He doesn't go out generally and make for super exciting matchups. Better than Shakur Stevenson, because at least you'll stand in the middle and get hit to throw punches. But at the same time, he's far from the most entertaining fighter out there today. And that's not hating on him. That's just a fact. Anyone that says Devin Haney is one of the top 5 fighters to watch in boxing is lying to you. But, obviously this card itself is pretty great. So let's look at this card. And I've talked about it, and I'm a big proponent of this card. I think obviously what Turkey is doing in conjunction with Oscar De La Hoya and Eddie Hearn to make this card is fantastic. This is a really interesting set of fights. And I see some people being crybabies about it because obviously Ryan Garcia and Lopez have said that have offended them. And that's fine that, you're offended. And because of that, you don't want to pay to watch this, and that's your prerogative, and nobody's holding that against you. But the reality of the situation is they're doing the same thing Devin Haney's doing. Through social media, they are literally trying to make themselves the bad guys to get more attention and get more social media clicks so that they can become bigger brands and bigger names in the sport of boxing. And for these 3 young fighters, it's not a bad thing to do. Because how old is Devin Haney? 27. Ryan Garcia is 26, 27. Tio is also around 26, 27. These guys are literally just coming into their prime. right? Literally coming into their prime. And so using this opportunity to really highlight themselves now is probably the smartest thing they can do. As far as the matchups, I think they're really entertaining fights. Obviously, when you look at the fight with Lopez versus Barboza, this was a fight that has long been pushed. Barboza's been chasing Teo for a long time. Obviously, has wanted the opportunity to fight Teo for his WBO title. Teo has basically ducked Barboza for at least 2 years right now. So the fact that this fight is finally happening, Turkey and the guys, with the money are bringing this event to New York City to do an outdoor venue. I think this is great for boxing. It's going to get a shitload of attention, whether it's all positive attention or negative attention. At the end of the day, that's not really going to matter. As long as casual fans are talking about it, as long as the media is highlighting it, that's beneficial for the sport of boxing and for these three fighters. The Teo fight versus Barboza, a real banana peel. I have no doubt that Barboza potentially can upset Teo. Stylistically, size-wise, he has all the advantages. So it'll be interesting to see what this version of Teo looks like now that obviously he's training with Canelo Alvarez's trainer. Obviously, he's not going to be with him for a long time, so we can't expect him to sort of be reinvented. But hopefully they can just make him better than he's been over the last few fights. Then, of course, Haney Ramirez, another potential banana skin. Ramirez is a ex-unified 140-pound fighter. He's a big fighter. He could easily be fighting at 147 pounds. I think this fight is going to be basically at 147 pounds. He's got a good reach, a great left hand, legitimate power. As far as skill-wise, Devin Haney should be able to outbox him and win a decision. But if Devin Haney is not the same fighter he was prior to the Ryan Garcia fight, he may be susceptible to that left hand. He may be chinny. He may be mentally broken. He may not be the same fighter he once was. We've seen this before. If he bounces back and beats Ramirez convincingly, that's going to be a great win for him. Hardwick says, fighters like Haney need the right dance partner to push him. Fat, full potential, and entertaining. Some other fighters will go to destroy no matter what. I agree. And that's the one good thing about Ramirez. He is going to bring the fight to Haney, which potentially can make Haney look better because he's not going to have to chase after him. Evan says, Herrera versus Shakur is a good fight. I'd like to see it. Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm not going to push for a fight like that because at this point, that fight doesn't do anything for for Shakur Stevenson. Nothing at all. For Herrera, if you think he potentially could beat Shakur, then I understand why you push for that fight because you feel he could really do something and announce himself as one of the top fighters in boxing. But for Shakur, this fight doesn't benefit him. A fight he wants and a fight us boxing fans should want is obviously the Tank Davis unification fight. At this point of Shakur's career, he should be fighting one of those other champions at 135 pounds, just like Lomachenko should, just like Tank Davis should, just like Keyshawn Davis should. I mean, as far as taking other opponents, I mean, if you can't get the champions, then you got to fight somebody that at least is interesting. The problem with Herrera, nobody knows him outside of us hardcore boxing fans, right? So, the chances of him getting that fight are pretty much nil. Evan says, apparently Loma's manager is saying he'd rather fight Tank than Shakur. Well, let's be honest. I don't know why people are getting in their feelings over that whole statement. Realistically, if you were Lomachenko, you would also prefer to fight Tank Davis. It's a way bigger fight, way more money potential for a huge pay-per-view with real kickbacks from that pay-per-view towards the two fighters. Stylistically, it's a way more intriguing matchup. Tank Davis is a much easier fighter to hit, a much more aggressive fighter that's going to be involved in a fight where you could potentially beat him. Shakur is a guy that's going to be very defensive. He's not going to bring the fight to you. You're going to have to be the one that brings it to him. He's not a big draw. He's not a big pay-per-view superstar. So if you had a choice of fighting the two of them, obviously it makes more sense to fight Lomachenko if you were Tank Davis. And obviously for Lomachenko, it makes way more sense to fight Tank Davis. It's not even comparable. Tank Davis is so much more of a big draw than Shakur Stevenson. I wonder how Haney looks if he advanced or is he damaged? Well, that's the question, right? The same thing people were asking about Errol Spence after the car crash. Obviously, not nearly to the same extent, but when a guy gets dropped and really hurt so many times, and we saw Devin Haney and mentally how he was showing a little bit of fragility in that Lomachenko fight when he was basically crying to his father that, he didn't know what to do. Lomachenko had him figured out. And at that point, that's not what you want to hear from a fighter. And then you go out and fight a guy who you feel you're going to destroy. Your father tells you to go out and kill him. And then literally every time he touches with your left hand, you get dropped or hurt. So it'll be interesting to see mentally where he is. Not to say he's shot or done and can't beat Ryan Garcia, but you don't know until somebody does it, right? That's always the question. We haven't heard from Loma yet, though. Loma versus Tank might be in the fall, even though that would be so terrible to be off for such an extended period of time. That means Lomachenko would be out of the ring for almost fucking what, 16 months, maybe more, before jumping in versus Tank Davis, who at that point is going to be very active. Uh, it's not what I would prefer in those circumstances. Loma will make more money fighting Shakur. Loma will make more money fighting Shakur. Come on, man, get real. Way more money. That pay-per-view will do 750. Making more money fighting Shakur compared to fighting Tank? Are you mental? If Lomachenko fights Tank Davis, that pay-per-view could easily do 1 million. It's going to get a shitload of attention because Tank Davis, whether you like him or hate him, is a far bigger draw than Shakur Stevenson. Dear, I don't want Loma versus Tank at this point. It's too late. Tank aged him out for 6 years, and they will try to rob him like Roach. Loma can fight Tank, Haney, Prime Linares, Tio, Ortiz, and will still be hated on the most. He don't have the complexion for the protection. Well, that's true. That's true. A certain demographic is never going to give Lomachenko credit for anything. We've known that and we've seen it. Loma might beat up Tank worse than Roach did. Well, I would expect that he would. If Loma beat Tank, he becomes the oldest lightweight champ in history and will make 20 million or more. Yeah, that's what I mean. Obviously, the Tank Davis fight is huge. Yes, that was a typo. He will make more money fighting Tank. My bad. Okay, yes. That makes more sense. I didn't really understand how anybody could think he would make more money fighting Shakur. And that's what it comes down to, right? This is not hate towards Shakur. This is just about an obvious scenario. The same way Shakur would prefer to fight Tank Davis, so would Lomachenko. So would Keyshawn Davis. I mean, if you could fight one another, obviously you want to fight the guy who you can make the most money from. As far as this other fight with Ryan Garcia, Rolly Romero, I mean, that is easily the more cherry pick of all the fights on this card. But to be fair, Ryan Garcia is also the least accomplished out of everybody on this card. Rolly Romero has been a world champion. Carlos Ramirez has been a unified champion. Devin Haney's been an undisputed champion and is currently a two-weight world champion. Lopez really, if boxing wasn't so corrupt, would literally be a two-weight undisputed champion. Barboza is a legitimate, undefeated top contender who literally beat world champions. Ryan Garcia's got knocked out by Tank Davis, and then obviously has a no contest versus Devin Haney in his best performance, even though in that fight he looked shit as far as his endurance and everything else. The dude looked like he's out of shape. He looked tired quick, right? Like he did not look great, even though his left hand was great. His left hand has always been great, so that's not a shock or surprise. But overall, I'm super excited by this card. I'm happy to see people talking about it because people should talk about it. They should give it attention. Even the people that are hating on it because of, Lopez and Ryan Garcia, they're still talking about it. They're giving it tons of attention just by basically, saying people shouldn't pay attention to it because they're both racist. And that's fine. You can say that. You can say you're going to boycott it. But by continuing to talk about it, you're continuing to hype it up. JA, what's up? Now, when Tank looked weak, Loma should take opportunity to beat him in America style of picking. I only care about Tio versus Barboza. Well, that fight's a good fight, but obviously the Haney Garcia fights, I think they're good. The most interesting fight on that card is going to be Romero Garcia, as far as the talk between the two of them. That's going to be fun entertainment, right? Which is probably going to get a lot of sound bites and a lot of attention through the media. And obviously, people, come on, let's be honest. The fight people want is Haney versus Garcia 2, the rematch. And that's what this is moving towards. As long as both guys win their fights, that's the fight they're going to get next. And that's a huge fight. It's going to put up way bigger numbers than the first fight. I won't say it's the biggest fight in America, but it's definitely one of the biggest fights in America, and a fight that's going to get a lot of attention. The LDBC are going to be talking about that shit every fucking day, nonstop. So, it's going to be hyped. Then, of course, we just got the final card for Fatal Fury, Canelo versus Skull. Obviously, nobody was super excited about Skull versus Canelo, but we understand why they're doing that. Just like we understand why Haney's fighting Ramirez and Garcia is fighting Romero, because they're building up a second fight. This whole scenario, what they're trying to do is give Canelo the opportunity to become undisputed so he can fight Bud Crawford for undisputed, right? So Bud Crawford, if he does win, will become a 3-weight undisputed champion. That shit's unreal. And based on that in itself, if you're a Crawford fan, you should be very happy and very excited about Canelo fighting Skull. And you should want Canelo to beat William Skull, because obviously that's going to benefit your guy, Bud Crawford, because he's going to get a career high payday and an opportunity to do something historic. If you're a Crawford hater, then I guess you could shit on this card. I mean, the Canelo haters will shit on this card, even though to what end, I don't understand, but, it is what it is. Jay says, I'm most interested in Haney Ramirez, mainly because there's a big danger factor for Haney, because nobody knows what he's going to look like coming back. Yeah, and that's a real question. Crawford will get bludgeoned in 6 or 7 rounds. He might. I think it depends on his legs. If he has the legs to move, I think he could make the fight really interesting. If he doesn't have the legs to move, that means he's going to be getting hit to the body, and I don't know how much of that he's going to be able to take. But we will see. Crawford's a dog. Obviously, he's taking a big bite out of the apple, and we'll see if it's too big of a bite or what. Haney will beat Ramirez 120-108 in a mismatch. Ramirez is shot. Possibly, that's true. But you saying him shot, his fight with Barboza was competitive, right? Losing to Barboza stylistically was not the right opponent for Ramirez to begin with. So, we might be underestimating Ramirez. He's not that old. And when you have a real opponent in front of you with big money, and knowing that if you beat Haney, your next fight is going to be fucking huge. 38-year-old and inactive moving up 2 weight divisions to fight a pound-for-pound fighter equals mismatch. Well, obviously Sugar Ray Leonard was not that old when he moved up 2 weight divisions to take on Marvin Hagler, but he'd been inactive for 3-4 years and ended up going in there and outsmarting and outboxing Hagler and beating him to become middleweight champion of the world. I mean, that's why I say if Crawford's legs are good, potentially he may be able to do what Sugar Ray Leonard did to Hagler, to Canelo Alvarez, because Canelo don't have the best legs. He don't have the fastest feet. He don't even have the reach advantage that Hagler had, right? So, I mean, it's easy to come out and make statements. I don't disagree with you. There's truth to it, but it's a very one-dimensional way of looking at things. Sugar Ray Leonard, Schools, Bumford. Evan, it just sounds like you are a Crawford hater. That's what it sounds like. Because I don't think really any real boxing fan thinks that fucking Sugar Ray Leonard would school fucking Bud Crawford. People will maybe favor him to beat him, but nobody thinks he's going to school him. We saw Sugar Ray Leonard struggle with Floyd Mayweather's father. And nobody pushed Floyd Mayweather's father in the same fucking category as Crawford. He would. What is he would? Sugar Ray Leonard would school Crawford? It's easy to say that, but there's no way you can prove it. It's just opinion. We saw Sugar Ray Leonard struggle and lose to Duran, a lightweight. We saw him struggle with Floyd Mayweather father. We saw him struggle with Tommy Hearns, every single time he fought him. Didn't Jermell move his feet a lot? Crawford is not known for his foot speed. He was getting beat up by Madrimov. Crawford will not be faster than Charlo. Charlo ran to survive. There's a difference between having good foot movement and running to survive. If you feel you can counter a guy, you're going to use movement to walk dudes into punches, and you're going to make sure you keep it at range. Crawford has a 74-inch reach, so he's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage over Canelo Alvarez. And there's nobody that thinks Charlo's as good as Crawford. Nobody that's not a PBC fanboy. Duran is the greatest lightweight of all time. That dude chins Crawford at 135. Again, Evan, you're just showing that you hate Crawford. That's all. Because, making those kind of statements, it's just a wild fucking statement. It's like the same as when John Boxing and other people sort of say that, fucking comparing Golovkin to Hagler is racist and idiotic and disrespectful. But why? Golovkin was a dominant middleweight during his era. Hagler was a dominant middleweight. Hagler had already had several losses and draws in his career. He was a good fighter, but he was never the amateur level standout that Golovkin was, right? So to think that Golovkin potentially could have beat Hagler or at least been in a really great fight with him, that's just common sense, right? Maybe not school, but I think Sugar Ray Leonard would stop him. But nobody's ever stopped fucking Bud Crawford. Who has Crawford beat or even fought to suggest he can beat Durant or Leonard? Crawford has never fought a Ring Magazine champ. Laugh out loud. Well, Evan, hindsight is 2020. Like when Crawford, when Leonard fought the guys he fought, what did they do that was so great? Duran was a great lightweight, but people that say he's the greatest lightweight of all time are kind of disrespecting Sandy Sadler and other fighters that came before him. Obviously, he was a great lightweight, but his run at lightweight wasn't against a lot of fucking great fighters either. Just like Hagler's run at middleweight, Bernard Hopkins' run at middleweight wasn't against a lot of great middleweights. Just like Spinks's run at light heavyweight wasn't against a lot of great historical fucking light heavyweights. So it's not a real fair way to break things down. Crawford could have a way better resume, but he was blackballed by the PBC. So a lot of great opponents he could have had on his resume, like Golovkin, like Hagler, like others, weren't there because of circumstance. Canelo's going to stop him as well, specifically if he actually tries to fight and doesn't run like Jermell. Who has Kirkland Lang beaten to prove he could beat Duran? Exactly. But guess what happened when they actually fought? And we could say that Kirkland Lang fight is kind of like George Kambosos beating Teo Lopez, right? Circumstances just were perfect at that time. Duran fucking underestimated him, and Kirkland Lang obviously was at his best because he knew he had a great opponent in front of him. These things happen, right? It doesn't diminish Duran, but these things happen. Danny Garcia, Thurman would not have been good names for Crawford. Both had losses. No, Thurman was undefeated. What are you talking about? Thurman was undefeated and was at one point a unified champion. Danny Garcia would have been a great name at 140 pounds when that fight should have originally happened, when he literally ducked Postal and ducked fucking Bud Crawford, just like Broner did as well. How did John get your previous channel shut down? Flagging campaign? Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. I made videos, and I don't even know how YouTube could justify shutting my channel down, because me using his content, like, when has that ever been a fucking situation where people's channel got shut down? He uses my stuff, I used his. What I did is I proved John was a hypocrite, which everybody knows already, with his whole Inoue take, where he said that if Inoue beats Fulton, he would be pound for pound #1. Well, Inoue beat Fulton, and John had Devin Haney #2, Bud Crawford #1, and Inoue at like #6 or 7. After he did what John said he needed to do to prove himself to be #1, so I just used his sound clips showing he was contradicting himself. And of course, people like John, who are blatant liars and accuse everyone else of doing something, don't like when the light shines on them. And both were inactive too. That was a rat move from John. Well, no surprise. A rat move from a rat. But let's look at this card overall. Obviously, I know people aren't super excited about the whole William Skull fight, but overall, I think the card is pretty good. It's going to be interesting to see how that Munguia Sirachi fight rematch happens. Obviously, people felt that Sirachi was a bit of a cherry pick, ended up scoring the knockout win against Munguia very unexpectedly. So obviously this rematch is going to be interesting. Obviously Munguia is working with Canelo's team as well. So, you got Munguia on that team now. You got Ryan Garcia back with that team. You got Tio Lopez on that team. It'll be interesting to see if that team can actually make these guys better. Then you got Bacoli coming back. Obviously we understood that he jumped in real last minute. He probably should never have done it. But with the amount of money he was getting paid, how do you walk away from a big payday when literally these kind of paydays are not that frequent, especially for a boxer? You can make money that can be life-changing for your family, so you take the risk. You lose, but at least Saudi Arabia and Turki Al-Sheikh are doing what they should do and keeping him in line for the Efe Ajagba fight, which obviously had been being built up and worked on prior to him jumping in to get knocked out by Parker. And this is a great fight. Bacoli, Ajagba, two hard-punching heavyweights, should be a real interesting fight. Then Jared Anderson versus my Canadian, Ryan Rozycki. It's good for Ryan Rozycki. He too is getting an opportunity he well deserves, because he's been blatantly ducked by the other champion. So now the fact that Badou Jack is in the mix, Ryan Rozycki's finally getting a big fight. So it's good news for both guys. You know that Jack, he wants to put himself back in the money mix because now Zurdo's in there. And so there's some money at the cruiserweight division. And then great Mexican Olympian, silver medalist, Marco Verdi, making his professional debut. I'm really excited to see Marco Verdi. I don't know if he's going to be fighting at 154 pounds or 160 pounds, but he was a great amateur fighter. You don't usually see great Mexican amateurs. Usually, obviously, they turn pro really early and go through the hard knock life sort of school of boxing. But he's kind of like a prodigy. So it'll be really interesting to see how he looks and what he does. He is supposed to be the next great Mexican fighter, and obviously getting an opportunity to fight on Canelo's undercard in his professional debut, that shit is fucking sensational. He's also part of Canelo Alvarez's training team as well. So right there, you got Canelo, Munguia, that are part of it, plus him, Verdi. So 3 of the same trained fighters in the same camp. And then this other guy, Brian Leon, I'm not so familiar with him. I'm not sure what his story is. If anybody knows, let me know. But obviously, another young up and coming fighter. I would not be surprised if he's also part of Canelo's stable of fighters as well. Um, where are we? Having Haney at 2 is ludicrous. Ludicrous. And that's because he beat Lomachenko in a controversy fight, even though you criticized Lomachenko for fighting George Kambosos for a vacant title. So he doesn't deserve an opportunity to face George Kambosos for a vacant title, even though Tank was given a title, vacant title. Obviously, the Russia-Ukrainian guy that beat Navarrete was given a vacant title. Shakur Stevenson was given a vacant title. The only guy John was upset about was the fact that Lomachenko got an opportunity to fight Kambosos for the vacant title, even though beating Lomachenko is enough to elevate Devin Haney to number 2. But Lomachenko doesn't deserve an opportunity to fight for a world title, a vacant world title. You can't make this shit up. And of course, no one complained about Haney, Shakur, or fucking the Ukrainian guy fighting Navarrete, who came up in weight. So Navarrete coming up in weight, coming off of a draw in his previous fight, that's okay. But Lomachenko getting an opportunity, that shit's fucking terrible. The fix is in. Corruption in the sport. Do you think Zerto would have a solid chance against Opataya? Historically, I didn't really rate Zerto as a top cruiserweight, but to be fair, I think he has a chance. If he can survive the first 6 rounds, I could see him beating Opataya, because Opataya wears down in fights, right? And his lack of a gas tank potentially could be his kryptonite. So it'll be an intriguing fight. Obviously, we know Zerto's a good fighter. He can fight multiple ways as well. So that makes it very interesting as well. Elsa said, I'm going to marry a Canadian guy. Who's Elsa? Do I know Elsa? So some girl sent me a message saying she's going to marry a Canadian guy. I'm going to married with a Canadian guy. Okay. Oh, fuck. She's crazy. Sexy Indonesian girl. Oh, well, that Canadian guy is going to enjoy that sweet fucking sexy body. But man, what a fucking mental case he's going to have to deal with. So good luck to him. All that so she can get a Canadian citizenship. But okay. Remember when Tio beat Loma and John made a video gloating and laughing at Loma and his fans? But when Ryan beat Haney, he made a vids crying about people doing the exact same thing he did to Loma. Well, that's the hypocrisy of guys like John, right? Because they say, oh, people love when a black fighter gets beat. But yet these same people that cry about non-black fans rubbing it in do the exact same things. Like when people praise Deontay Wilder for getting beat by Fury, it's because Deontay Wilder fans were fucking dickheads. They had already fucking shit all over AJ on multiple occasions. What did they do to AJ when he lost to fucking Ruiz, right? Which has nothing to do with hating American fans, because literally those are UK fans, a complete different demographic. But yet these Wilder fans, the same fans who cry about people hating on Wilder, the same ones who push Glovegate, the same ones that cried about Spence fucking losing to Crawford, the majority, obviously not everybody's the same, but you know there's a whole group of people that are similar, like John, like Ego, like Fannin, right? These dudes are mental cases, right? And every time they open their mouth, they just prove it more and more to normal fans, because you don't have to be fucking a rocket science to see what these guys are doing, right? You know, the only thing they will say about this fight card is to shit on it, to hate on Canelo. The only thing they said about the other card in New York is to cry racism because Devin Haney is being booed by Mexican fans in California. Like, fuck, man. These dudes are pathetic, but some things never change. Always a victim, never a victimizer. So, speaking of Berlanga, what a fucking cringe dude he is. Like, talk about a villain. Like, this guy, he wants to be loved, but he comes across like such a fucking idiot every time he opens his mouth. Like he's hating on Eddie Hearn, who basically got him a Canelo Alvarez fight, got him paid huge money. The only reason he didn't get the William Skull fight is because the way these guys operate. He could have signed a deal with Eddie Hearn, but he wants to go work with obviously MVP Promotions, just the same way he jumped away from Top Rank after Top Rank built him up and gave him a lot of attention and started getting him paid. Then, of course, he went to Matchroom, got a Canelo Alvarez fight, got career money, and now obviously he's going to MVP, hoping he can fight on Jake Paul Netflix cards and make shitloads of cash. I mean, I can't hate on him, but he comes across as a real fucking prick. Not a likable cat at all. But these are the three opponents he called out after his fight last weekend. Stringer from above, what's up? He was cackling like a hyena when Bivol beat Canelo, but wants respect and sympathy when their fighters lose. Exactly. You know, we see the videos, we see the responses, we see how dudes act when non-black fighters get beat and how these guys fucking love it and talk about hype job, bum, right? Throwing out all these kind of fucking things. The same things they said about Pacquiao for fucking 10 years once his name was affiliated with Floyd. But out of these fighters, who would you most like to see Berlanga fight? I heard Chris Algieri and what's his face from CompuBox talking, and they were acting as if the biggest fight would be Caleb Plant. But I think they're mental because Caleb Plant is not a fucking big seller in America. He's not a big name. He doesn't have a big fan base. He's not a black American. The black Americans who supported him don't really support him, not like that. So, you know, in truth, out of the three of these fighters, he's probably the least marketable fighter and the least profitable fighter that Berlanga could fight. You tell me if I'm wrong. But in my opinion, obviously, Munguia and Berlanga, Mexico versus Puerto Rico, that fight would be huge. The only thing that put a bit of blip in that was Munguia getting knocked out in his fight with Sarache. But he's going to beat him. If he knocks him out quick, then obviously that fight's going to be right back on track. So don't be surprised that that's the fight they try to make. Because literally, that's Puerto Rico versus Mexico. It's going to be a very intriguing fight. Munguia now trains with Canelo Alvarez. So, you know, there's that whole side story as well. And then even Charlo with the whole black American fan base, you know, the whole PBC fucking fan base, the Al Heyman, you know, rules boxing fan base, you know, Berlanga versus him would be a big fight because of these guys. They're going to fucking pollute the internet with videos day in and day out, hyping up Charlo, talking about how Berlanga's easy work and just trying to, you know, use Berlanga as an opportunity to make Charlo relevant once again. So I think really it goes that way. Munguia, Charlo, and then Plant. The most dangerous opponent is Caleb Plant, which, if you think about it that way, makes him probably even more less of the choice of fighters to chase after. Because if he's the most dangerous but makes the least amount of money, then what's the fucking point of chasing him? But let me know what you think. Berlanga is a complete clown. I just can't take that man seriously. Well, exactly. When you lose to Canelo as comprehensively as you did, and then act as if somehow you won the lottery, and you did win the lottery, but I mean, everyone saw that you were outclassed. The only reason you survived is because literally you were probably about 25 pounds bigger than Canelo on fight night. And that extra weight you were carrying allowed you to absorb the punishment you were taking. But outside of that, it wasn't competitive. Canelo beat your ass handily, never had fucking any issues with you at all. He never looked like he was in an uncomfortable position. Dropped you with one fucking sweet left hand. And then after that, it just became a matter of you trying to survive. So you could go 12 rounds and say you went the distance with Canelo Alvarez. But to be fair, as I said, I would like to see the Munguia Berlanga fight. I think that fight sells. It's entertaining. Obviously, you have the Mexican fan base, the Puerto Rican fan base, the whole, Mexico versus Puerto Rico story. I would prefer that, and I'd like to see Plant fight Charlo, right? You can throw that on the Keith Thurman Errol Spence undercard on a PBC pay-per-view. And then the winner of Plant Charlo, then you can have them fight the winner of Berlanga Munguia, which would be a fucking huge fight. No title on the line, but it don't matter. When you have great matchups like that, after good fights leading into it, people are going to make huge cash. And you don't need a title. Canelo can still be the guy ruling the division, but you guys can still get paid millions of dollars giving fight fans what they want. Great matchups. Berlanga was 10 or 12 pounds heavier than Canelo. Canelo rehydrated to 180 after making weight. Man, he was way bigger than that. Come on, go back and watch that fight. He was fucking humongous compared to Canelo. Canelo gets up to 180, 184. Berlanga was fucking at least 200 pounds. At least 200 pounds. At least 200 pounds. Don't tell me he was 190. That's all. No chance, man. He was giant. Giant. But, you know, there's a way you can run boxing so that you make great fights that make fans happy. And that's what you could do. Looks like a cruiserweight on fight night. Exactly. He was huge, man. Tell me he's not fucking as big or not bigger than fucking what's his face? The Swedish guy who we just had on the card earlier, fucking Badou Jack. Man. And way more put together, way broader. But this is a fight now, of course, based on this last weekend's fight card, where obviously Nick Ball beat a common opponent to Inoue, stopping him in the 10th round. So now, of course, the big conversation is about Inoue versus Ball. And the way this year is unfolding, it seems as if this fight is going to happen in December in Saudi Arabia, right? Obviously, we know that Inoue's next fight, Cardenas, is going to happen in the U.S. in Vegas on Cinco de Mayo. And then from what we've heard, even though I don't know if it's been confirmed by anybody, but that a September fight between Inoue and MJ is going to happen in Japan. And then obviously Ball versus Inoue in Saudi Arabia, which makes tons of sense because we know he just signed a big deal with Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia really tries to put out content for the UK. And this is a great fight for UK fans, but also globally as well, thanks to Inoue. But what a great matchup. I would love to see Inoue move up to fight Nick Ball at 126 to fight for his title. And the great thing about it, Nick Ball's not really that big, so you can fight him. You're not going to be at such a disadvantage as you would to fight one of the other two champions. Obviously, Fulton is not that much bigger, but still is bigger. And then hopefully what this means is that Inoue can stay at 122. Because I don't mind him going up, winning his 5th title by beating Ball, dropping the title, and staying at 122. Because obviously the fights I hope to see in the future are him versus Junto Nakatani, another fight that Saudi Arabia talked about, and Turki Al-Sheikh said he wanted to make. And then obviously the Bam Rodriguez fight, which obviously is, you know, a little further away. But let's think 2026. There's no reason that in 2026 we can't have Junto and Bam Rodriguez both challenge Inoue for his undisputed 122-pound titles. No reason at all, right? Those are two fights that easily should be able to make. And the great thing about it is obviously you could do Junto in Japan, which would be the biggest fight in Japanese history. But then you could do Inoue versus Bam in Vegas in a huge fucking fight, which at that point would really, really, really galvanize American boxing fans because you really have an American fighter with a bit of something behind him, like a real exciting, young, dynamic fighter with a built-in fan base. And obviously at that point, you know, he's going to be a 2-weight unified champion, potentially moving up to bantamweight, becoming a 3-weight world champion, and then trying to jump up to fight Inoue to become a 4th-weight world champion for undisputed. If Inoue is able to beat Cardenas, MJ, Ball, and then Junto. But if he does, man, Great shit. Great shit. Where are we? What so you think about undercard? Huh? Stylistic Nui versus Ball is going to be an extremely fun fight until the monster stops him. Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? It's a great matchup because Ball is going to bring it to him. And because of that, it's going to be an intriguing fight. We know Inui does get hit. We saw him get hit by, obviously, Donaire. But Ball coming right at him is also going to allow fucking Inui to really sit down on shots and fucking hit Ball with some crunching fucking counters. So it should be great. Bum ass opponent. Hard recoil. What's bum ass opponent? I don't see what you're talking about. What's the opponent? Ball, you mean? Ball's not a bum ass opponent. That would be for a fifth weight division world title. Literally, if Inui wins against Ball to become a 5-weight world champion, he joins elite, historic group of fighters who become 5-weight world champions. I think Cardenas is better than Ball. Laugh out loud. Those odds on FanDuel are disrespectful. Well, to be fair, Ball has beaten world champions to become a world champion. Cardenas has 2 losses against who? We can check it out. Like, who did Cardenas fight? And who did he get beat by? Cardenas, there he is, currently 26-1, so he's got 1 loss. 29 years old, 5'5", 14 knockouts. He lost, okay, it was quite a while ago. Back in 2017, he lost to Danny Flores by majority decision. So to be fair, you can't really put too much in that loss because it was a long time ago and it was a majority decision. But since then, outside of beating Rafael Pedroza, 15-0, stopping him in 2, fighting Israel Picasso, 30-5, stopping him at 6, Jesus Rubio, 22-2-3, and then Brian Acosta, 20-0, going the distance with him. He hasn't been in with a lot of elite level fighters, right? So he is definitely biting off more than he probably can chew. No, Ball should be an entertaining opponent. Ball should be a great opponent because he's going to bring it right to him. Just like Cardenas, right? That's crazy. How's it going, Sean? Pound for pound. All good. All good. What do you think about this Inui Ball matchup? I know I heard True School was kind of shitting on this fight, acting as if really Inui should be going after one of the other champions, preferably, of course, the guy he supports instead of Ball. But like when I said he's a fanboy, and then he said, no, he's not a fanboy. He is affiliated with them, so it's different. But you being part of the team makes you even more of a fanboy because you can't see clearly because you're so fucking bogged in, eating the jello. The reality of the situation is the only guy at 126 pounds that's marketable and sells is Nick Ball. Nick Ball is the only guy that headlines his own events. He's the only guy that does big venues as the headliner. Fulton doesn't headline. Angelo Leo doesn't headline, or at least he hasn't. And Espinoza, he's always doing sort of double cards, right? Because on his own, he isn't there yet. Ball does huge fucking venues in the UK. So a Nick Ball Inui fight just makes tons of sense. Also, side-wise, if you're going up to your 5th division, you fight Nick Ball, you're not fighting a guy who's way bigger than you. So it just makes sense as well. He's also not going to have a long reach compared to you. So it's just a smart move to make. And the reality is, I know he wants Inui to move to 126 just so his fighter can get the fight with Inui. But if he was being honest and realistic, the Junto Nakatani fight is way bigger than any fucking fight he can get at 126 pounds. Junto in Japan is the biggest fight in Japanese history. Junto is a pound-for-pound fighter. There's nobody at 126 that's anywhere close to being considered pound for pound. Espinoza might be moving in that direction. If he unifies against somebody else, that would really help him. But at this point, most people feel he's too big for the weight, and he's inevitably going to be moving to 130 to try to fight Navarrete. Neither was Roach, but Inui is better than Tank. Man, why has True School been hating on Inui so hard lately? Well, he made a video trying to justify that he's not hating. He just wants Inui to capitalize on his current form by fighting the best fighters available, which for him obviously means going to 126 and getting beat by Angelo Leo. Right? That's what he's saying, right? Oh, yes, he should capitalize on being at his best right now and move up to his fifth division so he can get beat by Angelo Leo. Moving up to his fifth weight division to get beat by Angelo Leo, how is that somehow capitalizing on your prime? It's not a big money fight, and you think he's going to get beat. So, also, he can move back to 122 pounds as a beaten man. Oh my God. I can't understand people. Like, the reality is, if you want Inui to capitalize on his form, fighting MJ in Japan, fighting Ball in Saudi Arabia, fighting Junto in the Tokyo Dome, and then fighting Bam Rodriguez in Vegas in his next 4 fights after the Cardenas fight. That's how you capitalize on somebody's career. Because most of those fights are historic in size and grandeur. You never know how the fight's going to work out, but that's true in either direction. But he knows he's fucking biased as fuck, but then he's trying to justify it. The truth is, you're biased. Fine, you put a lot of work into making your platform pro-Japan to try to build up a new fan base to your channel. That's good work. But at the same time, you're almost fucking alienating yourself from that fan base by hating on the superstar fighter from that country. And I think it comes down to, the first time he went to Japan where he felt a little insulted because none of those boxing promoters and big fighters would really talk to him because in truth, they don't know who he is. Japanese people are also pretty shy. They don't like putting themselves in an awkward position. Talking to an English media member when you don't speak English is an uncomfortable situation, right? So most of them would avoid that. That's just part of Asia. Even if people speak English well, they will tell you in great English, oh, sorry. My English is not good, right? So imagine how somebody that doesn't speak any English is going to feel put in that position. He'd rather talk to Japanese media, where he still never looks super comfortable, but at least Japanese media is going to be respectful, right? And not push the bounds, not try to take his face. This is a very Asian thing, right? They're not going to be disrespectful to a guy like Inui, unlike American media, which has no qualms being disrespectful towards American fighters. But he should know that more now that he's been to Japan 2 times, has a better understanding of the culture. But and here we go. I think Top Rank's doing a great job building this fight. Apparently the fight is almost sold out. I don't know how many tickets are left. Let's just Google it and see what they say. I heard yesterday on Sunday at my live that basically was almost sold out. Today is Tuesday, so 2 more days. Is the Inui Cardenas fight in Las Vegas sold out? I don't think it's sold out. Because if it was sold out, you think for sure they would talk about it. Ticketmaster. I never really buy tickets online. I've been out of the country so long, so I feel sort of uncomfortable even looking at these apps. But let's look. What's it going to say? Accept all. See, I never know how to figure this out. There's still tickets available. Ticket prices are not bad. $130, I think, was the highest ticket I saw. 130. Yeah, that's not bad. 134, 205. So this look like there's still tickets all the way to 205. The cheapest tickets you can get are $55. Obviously, miles from the crowd. But yeah, I suppose those are the numbers that tell you how many seats are available. If you guys buy tickets, maybe you know more than me. Blue means lots of tickets. I don't know. Let me know if you understand. Drunk Irishman's in the house. What's up, brother? But there's rumors about that fight being sold out. And to be fair, if it's anything like the last time Inoue was going to go to Vegas to fight the Filipino fighter, apparently that fight sold out real quick and was going to put on huge numbers. So we will see if Cardenas does as well. Obviously, he's not as big a name, but obviously Inoue is a far bigger name now than he was back then. And people, they should want to see Inoue because it's not like he's going to be fighting in the U.S. that often. So if you have the opportunity to watch him, you should capitalize on it while you can because it may never be around again. But what did they say as far as this thing? Inoue Cardenas and the WBO featherweight title bout between reigning champion Rafael Espinoza and top contender Edward Vasquez will headline a championship doubleheader that will broadcast live on ESPN, ESPN Deportes, and ESPN Plus at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. 10 p.m. Does that mean the time Inoue steps out or the time the card starts? Because that's fucking late, eh? The Inoue Cardenas card is scheduled to air immediately following the Sunday night baseball game between Shohei Ohtani's Los Angeles Dodgers and Atlanta Braves. Oh, look at that. Smart, right? See, that's probably why it's so late. They're using their brains. Going to have Ohtani Japanese fans jump on it and watch Inoue afterwards. Smart marketing. It's the same as what we were saying about the card in New York earlier and how they're attaching obviously that card and the Canelo Alvarez card to that fighting game and its re-release. Marketing is important for sure. Inoue has been fighting in world championship fights since the age of 20. Now he's 31 years old, so 10, 11 years fighting in world title fights. Yet, if you want to listen to the haters, Inoue hasn't done anything. His resume is garbage. You can't compare him to Bud Crawford, even though the irony with that statement is, if I'm not mistaken, Errol Spence fans spent literally 5 years shitting on Bud Crawford's resume, talking about how his resume was shit and he hadn't beaten anyone. Red Glove Militants in the house. What's up, brother? Long time no see. How's it going? Another interesting matchup. Obviously, because the WBC has been sort of ordering the David Benavidez Bivol fight, which I'm cool with. I have no problem if that fight happens. Why would I? I think it's a great fight. I feel confident Bivol would win, so I don't think it gets in the way of a rematch between Beterbiev and Bivol later on. But from the rumors, Bivol said he was down and wanted to do the fight in June, but apparently David Benavidez' team and him basically came out and said that they were injured and they want to do the fight in September, which obviously gets in the way of potentially doing the trilogy fight with Beterbiev. Now you're going to push that shit back even farther. and Beterbiev is not fucking getting any younger. So, ASAP, man, let's get on that shit quick while we can. Doing well. Hope you are well, Sean. All good, all good. Even though my toe's bothering me, so the gout must be kicking in. But, part of getting old, eh? It's always one thing or another. But the other rumor, and we all heard this during the whole Saudi Arabian supercard, is that what they may do was have David Benavidez fight Callum Smith, coming off of his great victory versus Buatsi on the undercard of Bivol versus Beterbiev, right? And you could do that fight card in Saudi Arabia. And obviously that would potentially maybe open up the opportunity to do the Bivol Morrell David Benavidez fight in the US. But that's a case of Benavidez's team being willing to work with Saudi Arabia to actually give a little to get a little. And the way it sounds as if the WBC and the PBC obviously are doing what they do, which is try to put Bivol in a position where it's either you sort of shoot yourself in the foot by trying to deal with us, or you get stripped and shoot yourself in the foot and be called a ducker by all the fucking dumbass PBC American fans who are going to say, oh, Bivol's ducking Benavidez and is getting stripped, even though in truth, facing fucking Beterbiev is a way more dangerous fight than facing David Benavidez. But, the fans that are consistently twisting the narrative, all the fanboy for fighters like Benavidez who fucking haven't done anything in the sport. I hope Benavidez doesn't duck Bivol in PBC fashion. Well, what they're probably going to do is put him in a position where, like we saw Turki say, Turki's like, he's trying to work with Benavidez to make those fights. Obviously, Benavidez and his team are being dickheads, which is why Turki said, fuck them. I ain't even interested in that fight anymore. And then he told Bivol, fuck those guys. Work with me. We don't need them. Basically also saying, fuck the WBC. The WBC is going to come kissing our ass because if they want to make real money, they better be aligned with Turki Al-Sheikh, not with fucking Al Haymon's PBC. Because let's put it this way. So Bivol fights Beterbiev in September. The WBC strips him. Beterbiev is now fighting Bivol for 3 of the 4 titles. Benavidez is now the WBC champion. Who does he fight? Because the PBC going to want to put that shit on pay-per-view, regardless of who he fights. So who are they going to have him fight? They think Canelo going to fight him? Canelo's not going to fight him because Canelo's all in bed with fucking Turki Al-Sheikh, meaning that David Benavidez ain't getting the fucking Canelo Alvarez fight because now he's not willing to fucking work with them to make the Bivol fight and the Beterbiev fight match up and just make things go smoothly. So he's costing himself a Bivol fight. He ain't getting a Canelo fight. So who the fuck's he going to fight? Right? Like if we look at the rankings right now for the fucking 175-pound division, let's just quickly check this out and think which of these fucking potential opponents could the PBC make so that they could have a fight between these guys. Screen share. There we go. So let's check this out. So obviously there's the rankings. God only knows how Benavidez somehow jumped above Beterbiev on BoxRec, but BoxRec's full of shit. You're not going to get the Callum Smith fight because Callum Smith is going to stay in Saudi Arabia. He was just given a huge opportunity. He's going to fucking capitalize on that by staying in Saudi Arabia. Dave Morrell is number 5. Buatsi just lost. Vosdik. How is Vosdik number 7? Who has he beaten? Albert Ramirez. That's probably who they make him fight. Some Venezuelan fighter like Albert fucking Ramirez, who nobody knows, right? On a PBC pay-per-view, which nobody will pay for. Anthony Yard, if he's smart, he's going to go to Saudi Arabia because that's where the big money fights are. Jesse Hart. Oh, okay. Maybe they'll try to get Jesse Hart. And then after that, who else do you have? Zach Parker. Zach Parker probably going to stay in Saudi Arabia. Naji Lopez. Oh, I mean, maybe that's the direction they could go. They could fight pro box fighter Naji Lopez for the WBC title. like what else are they going to do? What fight are they going to sell that actually people are going to be interested in from David Benavidez in the PBC at 175 pounds? Benavidez is open to work with Turki, but he's not open to work with Turki. If he was, Turki wouldn't have just came out and said now he's not interested in making the Bivol Benavidez fight. This is after he literally invited Benavidez to sit ringside for the fight, and meaning that he wanted him there so they could put him in the ring to help build up the fight with the winner. This guy left before the fucking final fight finished, which Turki was sitting there going, what the fuck, man? You come all the way here and you leave before the fucking fight even happens. You can't promote the fight because now you're not here anymore. We're going to talk about potentially you fighting Smith on the undercard, but now you're fucking gone, so you're not even interested in negotiating with me because you're here and you could actually fucking talk to me. Because we know how Turki does his shit. He gets them to sit down with him and fucking hash his shit out fucking directly face to face. I think Turki is saying that because of the newfound relationship with Canelo. He knows Canelo has a grudge. No. Come on, get real. That's not it. Come on. I mean, his grudge with Canelo wouldn't impact anything at 175 pounds. If anything, the potential grudge between him and Canelo, now you potentially give Canelo an opportunity and a reason to fight Benavidez for potential undisputed 175-pound title. Something that now at least Canelo is going to be motivated for, right? No, it's not grudge. It's fucking PBC doing what the PBC fucking does, right? Think about Canelo Alvarez when he had to fight Caleb Plant for that last belt. He was the A-side. So Plant should have went over to the DAZN Matchroom to face Canelo Alvarez over there for $10 million. Because he would never fucking make $10 million again in his career. He hasn't made $10 million again in his career. He won't ever make $10 million again in his career. But still, working with the PBC, Canelo was forced to go over to the PBC to fucking fight that guy. Because that's what the PBC does. They fucking fuck shit up constantly. We've seen it time and time and time again. So I don't think anyone's shocked or surprised that those clowns fucking fuck shit up. Now what they're talking about potentially is Callum Smith fighting David Morrell, right? Which wouldn't be a bad fight, but Callum Smith is coming off of one of the best wins of his career. Why would he face David Morrell, right? Like for him, he could fight Anthony Yard on the undercard of one of those fights, get paid shitloads of cash by Saudi Arabia in a fight that UK fans will be really fucking hyped to watch, right? Two UK fighters, two top 10 175 pounders. Obviously a great style matchup where I favored Smith to beat Buatsi. I favor Anthony Yard to beat Smith in a concussive knockout, which makes way more sense. Why would Smith fight Morrell? Especially because Morrell is also a PBC fighter, which means Smith would have to what? Go over and fight on the PBC? Come on, right? Like, man, when I talk about making fights, I don't care where they happen or who's fucking involved. I'm talking about making fights that make boxing fans happy. But you also got to use common sense. Like the Bivol Benavidez fight in fucking the States doesn't do fucking any views. They're going to put that on pay-per-view. That's going to be the headline event. I mean, who's going to pay to watch Benavidez fight Bivol on pay-per-view in the US? Is it a big fight in the US? People want to act like Benavidez got some big fan base in the US. He doesn't. Thanks to Mike Tyson, at least he's got some fan base. thanks to clout chasing off Canelo, the fan base is a little bigger than maybe it should be. But his fan base is still not that big. I mean, somebody stated something. I just want to see what that is. So let's see. Uh, what's David Benavidez' Instagram followers? So right now, David Benavidez has almost 700,000 followers on Instagram. What's Dimitri Bivol's Instagram followers? Bivol has 2 million followers. 2 million. Because being a global boxer compared to an American boxer is fucking different. But still, that fight won't do big numbers in the US because I guarantee you most of Bivol's followers are not fucking American. How many of those followers are going to buy a pay-per-view? And that's also the situation, right? Even if all those followers bought pay-per-view, that means you do 700,000 pay-per-view buys. That's not bad, right? That would be a super successful event for Benavidez and Bivol. Unlikely because Crawford and Spence did that much money. And they're obviously way fucking bigger than fucking Benavidez and Bivol. Right? So, it's just common sense. The money to be made now with making these fights to build yourself up to a point where you could do big money in the States is in Saudi Arabia right now. You fight on the undercard of these other fights, you make fucking life-changing money. You put yourself in great historical legacy matchups, which are fucking going to benefit you down the road, where now you become a far bigger name. It's like a Nui fighting in Japan, selling 70,000 in the Tokyo Dome. That doesn't really mean he's going to sell out great numbers in the US, but it just shows you how much his profile globally is building, right? And obviously, that's based on beating Donaire the second time, beating Fulton, and all of these things are starting to add up. You get him to fight again in Vegas, even if against a guy named Cardenas. Then you fight again MJ in Japan. You go to Saudi Arabia, you take on a Nick Ball. All of a sudden now, you're really talking about a global star. Yeah, Instagram followers don't really translate to pay-per-view buys. Obviously, it doesn't hurt if you're over social media and you're building your profile, right? It's a smart thing to do. Like right now, you see the governor of California starting to do his own podcast because he hopes to be the guy that runs for the next presidency for the Democrats. And so he's trying to really get that groundswell of followers based on that kind of situation. But that alone is not going to make you a star. Same situation with GGG Canelo. GGG hadn't sold much before fighting Canelo, but that fight ended up doing the highest numbers of Canelo's career because of the narrative before the fight. Benavidez Canelo is the biggest fight that can be made in boxing. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. The truth is that a Canelo Alvarez Bud Crawford fight is going to do way bigger numbers than Benavidez versus Canelo. It's just true. You're overrating Benavidez. He ain't that fucking much of an interesting story. I mean, when you go on BoxRec right now, don't they tell me who's trending? I thought I saw something before. Most followers trending. Right now, trending the last 24 hours. Marco Verdi, Herrera, Brian Leon, Callum Walsh. Most followed, Canelo, Davis, Inouye, Crawford, Usyk, Fury, Lomachenko, Golovkin, Joshua, Bivol. In the top 10, no fucking David Benavidez. Lomachenko, who people say he don't sell, he's not a big name. Well, Tank Davis is number 2, Lomachenko is number 7. You make that fight, it's a big fight. Canelo's number 4, Canelo's number 1. big fight. Golovkin, who's not even fucking active anymore and is retired, is still number 8, but people try to dismiss and downplay him. So, you know, people, they only push stuff because they want it to be true, even if it's not true. And I ain't hating, because in truth, I don't care if it's the biggest fight. If it's the biggest fight, great. I don't lose because Benavidez and Canelo Alvarez is the biggest fight in boxing. It doesn't hurt me. It just means when I make videos about it, more people watch my channel and maybe get more views and allow me to finally get 1,000 subscribers, because I'm talking about a trending topic where casual fans are going to possibly watch my channel, like what I say, and then potentially hit the thumbs up. And people, if you didn't, here's your opportunity to do just that. So that's all right. It's just going to potentially, I just lost 2 people because I did that. I guess they definitely didn't give me 2 thumbs up. It's a joke, people. Where's your sense of humor? Jesus, people are so sensitive nowadays. But anyone else, do you think Benavidez Canelo is the biggest fight of 2025? Or do you think, I know, it's crazy, eh? Or do you think Canelo versus Bud Crawford is bigger? Let you guys tell me what you think, because obviously, we can only tell based on opinion. Why so serious? I don't know. Absolutely. So what? What do you guys think? Which fight's bigger? Benavidez or Bud Crawford versus Canelo? Which one are you more interested in paying for? Which one do you think casual fans will be more interested in? Will Junto versus Nui be in 2025? Jay Will, it don't look like it'll be in 2025, 2026. Because we know Inui's fighting in Vegas, making Bob Arum happy, fighting there before Bob dies. And then obviously September, the rumor is MJ in Japan. And then it looks like possibly Nick Ball in Saudi Arabia in December, which would mean Junto has an opportunity to unify titles at 120, 118 pounds first, and continue to sort of build up his name before that fight, early 2026. But early 2026 is great. Where are we? Canelo Bud is more popular. Crawford Canelo is bigger, no doubt. I'd rather see Benavidez Canelo. Yeah, I'm not saying what you'd rather. I just say which one is bigger, because JA tends to think that Benavidez, the Mexican monster, is somebody that really moves the needle. I think a lot of that's just hype and not based on reality, because we've seen the numbers his pay-per-views have put out. Terrible. Terrible. And no shock and surprise that the Morrell numbers were shit, because you and I like Morrell. We watch him. We know he's a good talent, but he's not a big known fighter. He hasn't fought anyone. He hasn't even fought a top 10 fucking 168-pound contender, being a WBA regular champion. He was a WBA regular champion fighting pure-ass bums until he finally got a fight with Benavidez. The Canelo-Benavidez fight would be a very easy sell, just like Canelo GGG was, because they sold that. The difference between GG and Benavidez is Golovkin was a unified champion who Sergio Martinez, Cotto, Canelo had all fucking just recently ducked, right? And was destroying the opponents in front of him. So Golovkin was a much bigger name fighter than fucking David Benavidez, even though Mike Tyson didn't label him the Kazakhstan monster, even though maybe he should have. But yeah. Don't get me wrong, it's not like it's not a big fight. I would say it's definitely one of the 5 biggest fights. You also have Tank Davis versus Shakur, Lomachenko. Any of the other champions would be a big fight, right? So there's 3 fights: Canelo, Tank Davis, okay, let's say Tank Davis, Lomachenko, Tank Davis, Shakur. So there's 4 big fights for the year. Then, of course, you have Haney versus Ryan Garcia. That's a big fight as well, right? Outside of those 5 fights, what other fights big in America? I don't know. That's not what sells fights. Narrative sell fights, and the Benavidez fight has a much better narrative behind it than Crawford. Okay, even though the fight they're trying to make is Crawford, because they believe that's the fight that sells more. Because Crawford is just a way bigger fucking name than David Benavidez. Casual fans don't care about your narrative. Casual fans care about name recognition. That's why Tank Davis was going to fight Jake fucking Paul. Not because of the narrative, because there is no narrative. They were going to fucking make that fight because fucking name recognition sells. People watch Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul because name recognition sells. That's why the PBC recycles all their old useless fighters again and again and again, because PBC knows name recognition sells. That's why I look forward to Spence versus Thurman. Look forward to Charlo versus Plant, because name recognition sells. Salute Trump of the YTBC. I'm still waiting for my wig. Shakur saying Loma should drop the belt and retire. Shake my head. Of course he's saying that. He fucking can't stop fucking yapping about Lomachenko. Fucking the jealousy is fucking horrendous. Just beat somebody, Shakur. Because right now, the only thing hurting your career is your terrible performances and the lack of fucking name recognition. You fought because name recognition sells, and you haven't fought anyone. Devin Haney was smarter the way he maneuvered his career. You've maneuvered your career terribly so far, now that you moved to 135. Nobody wants to fight you because you're boring, son. Facts. No, it's because Canelo doesn't want to fight Benavidez. Turkey even said that he hopes one day he can convince Canelo to fight Benavidez. Sean with the Trump wig would look good, right? That's the shit. That's the fucking way to go. Crawford, I could be like that Chinese guy that sells fucking lights. Crawford versus Canelo is top pound for pound versus top pound for pound. Benavidez is hype. Facts. Hype. Hype. I find it funny because Mirage was on my channel the other day, and he's such a fucking Benavidez fucking fanboy. Yet you got to ask yourself, where does that fanboyism come from? Is that just a sickness because of your relationship to the PBC? Because it can't be based on anything boxing related. Because the majority of those PBC fight fans were huge Caleb Plant fans and were anti fucking David Benavidez not that fucking long ago. Let's see. What choices do I have? Some of them are terrible. Jesus Christ. Man, I look way too sexy like that. Jesus Christ. My hair has never looked so bad. It's not a daily use wig. It's a wig for party and Halloween. Oh, thanks for fucking telling me that. I thought I was going to be able to wear it every fucking day. Man. This one just looks terrible. But maybe it's the best one because it looks fucking fake. Or you could just do this one. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Oh my God. Where are we? Benavidez is bigger to Canelo compared to Crawford versus Canelo. I guess they should also make Inoue versus Tank at 135 since name recognition is all that matters. Well, that's why people talk about it, right? Because of name recognition. That's why it's constantly fucking talked about. Not that real boxing fans think it's something that should happen, but because of name recognition, that's why fucking the Inoue Tank Davis fight really gets so much fucking push consistently. That and fucking hate to non-black American fighters. Benavidez looked pretty impressive in his last fight against Morrell. It's a warning because you can get hurt walking around with it. Well, maybe in the States, it's stupid. What's stupid? The Inoue to Tank Davis stuff? Of course it's stupid. But casual fans, as I said, name recognition, man. That's what sells. People are casual. They're not hardcore fans. They don't follow the sport like we do. So, they're like a little fucking stupid and easily fucking led, right? They're not people that are going to do their own research. They're like the kind of people that follow LDBC channels and believe every fucking thing BFTB says, even though if you had any brain cells, you know that he's totally full of shit. But when you're a moron, you're easily fucking susceptible. Do you see Yard getting a big fight if he beats Lyndon Arthur? I do. Like I said earlier, I would not be surprised to see Anthony Yard fight Smith in Saudi Arabia. Right? That would be a huge card. UK fans would fucking be hyped. I'd be hyped. I think fucking Yard knocks Callum Smith out. And then in doing that, he puts himself right in position to potentially take on Bivol for undisputed. If he's undisputed at that time. Yeah, Yard versus Callum would be lit. It'd be great. Great matchup. I think Yard very dangerous for Callum Smith, even though I did feel confident that Callum Smith would beat Buatsi because I thought Buatsi really ruined his career. And it's good karma because Buatsi basically ducked Anthony Yard, and now that fight, it's not like it's done, but Buatsi's going to have to come back and do something serious. Maybe they need to overpay Anthony Yard to step in the ring with them, right? Just to try to redeem themselves. But I think Anthony Yard fucking beats Buatsi too, right? So I think it's a great fight. Canelo versus Bivol 2 for undisputed would be just as big a fight as Crawford versus Benavidez. That's the other fight that I was talking about. That would also be a big fight, even more so now, because it would also be for undisputed light heavyweight, which would give Canelo an opportunity to join Usyk, Crawford, and Inoue as two-weight undisputed champions, right? That Canelo Alvarez haters would not like that. They'll be in their feelings, especially if somehow he was able to beat Bivol, which, most of us don't think is possible, but anything is possible. That would be the last fucking straw that broke the Canelo haters' back. And then, of course, this is for my friend True School Sports. His next fight is apparently going to be against ex-top fighter in Tomoki Kameda. The Kameda family at one time were a big deal in Japan. Obviously, they've long been passed by the Inoues. They obviously had a lot of controversy in Japan as well. Tomoki, I think, primarily fought a lot out of Mexico, which made him a little more of a trending fighter because he did fight and train in Mexico. So he did get a lot more opportunities and a lot more global recognition. But he's a guy that never could win in a big fight. He doesn't get beat. He doesn't get blown away. So it's a good fighter for Angelo Leo. But let's be honest. I mean, you're not fighting name fucking recognition. Like Angelo Leo beating a Tomoki Kameda does not get him anywhere closer to a fucking Inoue fight. Beating a Japanese fighter isn't going to all of a sudden make Inoue go, oh man, I need revenge. because Kameda and Inui, those guys don't work in the same fucking circles, right? Their families don't work in the same circles. There probably very little connection between the two of them. So I don't think Inui would fucking even notice at all. And it's not going to be a big money fight. The only good thing you can say is Angelo Leo has to go to Japan to get the fight. So because of that, he's probably going to get more money than he would facing anyone in the US because he's just not a name in the US, right? Just not a name. Yeah. But, I'm happy to see Angelo Leo get a fight. I don't think he's going to lose to Kameda because Kameda is not really a hard puncher. He's a skilled fighter, obviously has a lot of experience. He's tough. But, yeah, I can't imagine him winning. Jag, what's up, my man? But, obviously, it might not be a bad long goal for Angelo Leo to fight in Japan because if the Japanese fan base knows you, is familiar with you, then that can only benefit you in the future for potentially getting a new fight in Japan, right? Because at least now they know you're marketable to the Japanese fan base. Some questions for the day. So question number 1, who is the face of boxing? I always think this question is a little misconstrued because obviously you're talking globally or domestically, right? It's obviously going to be different depending on who you are and where you're from. If you ask a UK fight fan who the face of boxing is, they're probably not going to fucking say Canelo Alvarez. If you ask an American, well, we know depending on your demographic, you're not going to say Canelo Alvarez, you're going to say Tank Davis, even though that's delusion, but okay. But you can put it into a group of fighters. Obviously, Tank Davis is big, even though I just showed you the BoxRec most followed fighters, and Tank is up there. Where was he again? At number 2, behind Canelo Alvarez. I mean, Inui is number 3, but people act like he's not even fucking can't sell in America. He's not global. Got to come to the States. Crawford number 4, Usyk number 5, Fury at number 6. Obviously, AJ at number 9. In the UK, obviously Fury is going to be the face of boxing in the UK because AJ has dropped off the cliff. In America, it's obviously going to be Canelo and Gervonta Davis. If you look here, you'd have to say Canelo Alvarez globally is the face of the sport, even though I'm not sure if he is, right? I think now that he's fighting in Saudi Arabia, it's definitely going to make him that much more likely to be the face of boxing globally because now you're fighting literally outside of North America. And because of that, you're really highlighting yourself to maybe a lot of boxing fans that wouldn't really watch you or be that familiar with you otherwise. Canelo, AJ, Fury, Inui, Tank, and Ryan. And it's funny that Ryan's on that list. Now Europe has more faces of boxing. Now Americans are becoming domestic level. Well, the problem with Americans is that the fans fucking only think domestic level. I can't understand it, but they'd rather fucking limit their perspective of boxing and potentially miss out on the sport in front of you. I wonder if Inui fights are free for the Asian demographic. What do you mean? In Japan, if the fights are free? Well, the fights are in Japan. They're on, what do you call it? The same thing the PBC fights under. What's that? You know what I mean? What's that app? In Japan, you can watch the fights. What is it? Don't I have the app on my phone? Prime Video. So Prime Video, they're there. So I don't know if you have to pay pay-per-view for Prime Video fights in Japan or what the situation is or how they do it. But, obviously the fight in The States is going to be on Top Rank. I don't know who's going to carry it over in Japan, what network will carry it, but obviously, for Japanese people in America, if you got Top Rank ESPN, you're going to be able to watch it because it's going to be just free on ESPN. It's not going to be pay per view or anything like that. Amazon, no, Prime. It's not just Americans that do that. There are loads of UK fans that only talk about British boxing. Yeah, that's true. And I'm sure there are Japanese boxing that mainly focus. Well, I'm sure Japanese boxing fans mostly only focus on Japanese boxing, just like they mostly only focus on Japanese baseball players. So, but the one thing you gotta remember when you try to be like John Boxing and make these kind of comparisons, the US is not fucking Japan. Japan is 99% Japanese people. So there's a whole different mentality when you go to countries like that, which are the majority of countries in the world. Canada, the US, the majority of people in our countries are still white Caucasians, 60%. But then the other 40% are all immigrants, which obviously still have connections to their countries. Like even Canada, I grew up, and in my neighborhood, it was all fucking Irish people, Scottish people, English people, and Italians, right? Very middle class. The Italians still identified themselves as Italian. They were born in Canada, but they were Italian. Yeah, you're fucking Canadian. Shut the fuck up. Like, I didn't identify myself as English, even though my mother is literally from England, born in England, raised in England, moved to Canada, and got knocked up by my Canadian father, whose father is English. So I could say I'm English, but I'm fucking Canadian. But the States and Canada is the same. It's just tons of immigrants. That's why so much Mexican Americans support boxing and support Mexicans. They relate to Mexicans. They speak the language. They still have the same traditions, the same culture. They still have family members that live there. So of course they're going to support Mexican fighters. Doesn't mean they don't support American fighters too. But when push comes to shove, it's like Italians who are going to support Italian Canadians or Italians over English Canadians. But when John says this, it's because he's ignorant and doesn't know anything. In the UK, sure, you have a far stronger sort of thing like that. Also because the way England is insulated as an island, disregards themselves from Europe, and then fucking is always fighting amongst themselves to not be part of, to separate themselves from Wales, Scotland, and fucking Ireland as well, who want to separate themselves from England. So I think it sort of builds that us against them mentality more so. But the States is not like that. Even in the States, East Coast, West Coast, North and South, they're very different, very separate from one another. Obviously, Americans as a whole, but they have their own mentality, right? The West Coast, super liberal. Canada of the US. Australia was charging $70 for Thurman versus Jarvis fight, which is $40 $40 Australia. Man, I don't know why anybody would fucking have paid for that fight. Does Nick Ball, as the champ, have to go to Japan like Fulton did, or will Inui be intrigued with the big fight in the UK? No, that fight's going to happen in Saudi Arabia. That fight's going to happen in Saudi Arabia. Inui signed that fight deal with Saudi Arabia, meaning he knows he's going to fight in Saudi Arabia at least one time. And if you're going to fight Nick Ball, you don't want to fight him in his hometown. So Saudi Arabia is neutral territory, but at least it's the same time frame as the UK. So for UK fans, it's going to be really cool, right? You're going to be able to watch the fight like it's in the UK. Just you can't specifically buy tickets and drive your car over to visit it. You could still go. I mean, Saudi Arabia's not that far away, but yeah. So I think that fight's definitely going to be in Saudi Arabia. They may adjust the time so that it's a little more friendly for Japanese boxing fans. Because when I think about me, When Saudi Arabia cards happen, it's a fucking pain in my ass because they start really fucking late, but not so late that I can wake up maybe at 4 o'clock and then see all the good fights. I probably have to wake up at 2 and then stay awake until like 7, or it's just really uncomfortable time schedule. For Japan, they're like an hour ahead of me, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, I'm not sure, but they're a little ahead of me. So their fights would start maybe at 10:30 at night and then go until like 5 in the morning. So yeah, which means the Inui fight could be at like super early in the morning for them. We will see. Either way. And then, of course, we have this one. And we talked about this before, but who do you think is the biggest prospect in boxing right now? Obviously, Abdullah Mason, I think his next fight is great. He's going to be fighting Cabrera, the same guy that really most people feel beat. What's his face? The guy that Tank Davis beat, the Mexican fighter. But I agree with Jay Will. I think Moses Atamo is definitely the best prospect right now in boxing. Like, and this is nothing to take away from Abdullah Mason. It's just you're comparing a heavyweight to a fucking potential welterweight. Like, there's a reason for pound lists. Moses Atama might be the biggest superstar in boxing. It's very unlikely that Abdullah Mason is going to be the biggest superstar in boxing. It's much easier for a heavyweight to sort of become a superstar, right? Compared to a welterweight. Biggest or best? Well, this says biggest, but I think what they mean you know, the best. Because biggest, they wouldn't have a picture of Abdullah Mason, because at this point, he's not the biggest, because he's not even getting as much talking to about him as Moses Atama has been getting. People have been talking about Moses with breaking Mike Tyson's record of being the youngest heavyweight in boxing history, is getting a fucking shitload of attention for well over a year already. Moses sparks Torres right now. Oh God, fucking no doubt. Torres is more of a cruiserweight. Virgil seems to be ducking Bakram now. Really? I haven't heard anything. Well, what did you hear that makes you feel that? Because I thought it sounded as if that fight was pretty close to being done. But I guess it depends on what opportunities are available to you. If you could potentially fight Funduro next for 2 belts, and because you're like kind of the interim champion for one of his belts, I can understand why you do that instead. You can win 2 belts. It's a much bigger fight financially. So it makes sense financially and career-wise. And then you could always fight Bakram later for 3-belt unification. So, it really depends. If Mason gets certain fights against the current crop of 130, 140 pounders, he could become big. Well, let's be honest. What's the crop of 140 pounders that he could fight that would make him big? Obviously, at 135, that would be Tank Davis and Shakur. So maybe he can get those 2 fights. Chances are he's probably going to grow out of the division before he gets either one of those 2 fights, which means he'd move to 140. Currently, who's the biggest star at 140? It looks like Tio is potentially going to move to 147 for the big money fights with Ryan, Boots, Devin Haney, and the guys there. So 140 is going to be an open division with no fucking real interesting opponents. And he's probably going to be spending the next 3-4 years at 140 before he moves to 147, because he's still only like 20 years old, 20, 21. So yeah, I don't know what the big names are that he's going to fight anytime soon. Kermel Moton is be on your radar. Not at this point, because he's super young, right? Super young. hasn't really, what's the expectations for a kid like him? He's super young. What is he, 18 years old? And fighting real subpar competition. So, and he's a PBC fighter, which means they're going to put him on Tank Davis PBC Island for God knows how long. So, we will see. Moten is like 5'11", laugh out loud, probably be hard to cross divisions being so small. Yeah, well, that's also the problem, right? The problem that Abdullah Mason won't have. 135, 140, 147, 154. You could see him easily going through those four divisions in his career. No problem. Kermel, he's going to be like Tank Davis, right? Where he fights at a division, maybe wins a title, moves up, and then can't really move any higher because he's just so undersized. Kind of like Tank Davis now, he's at 135. He fights 130-pound fighters because still they're bigger than him, right? He don't want to move to 140 because he'll be giving up way too much of the advantage to those fighters. And so he stays away from those divisions because it's too competitive. Fighting guys that are naturally bigger, can take your punches because they have bigger size, more resistance, have bigger reaches, and also have more pop. So now it's more dangerous for you as well. Kermel is slow. Is he slow? I haven't watched much of him, so I'm not familiar with him so much. I figured he was just like a baby version of Tank Davis, and I could expect that he was going to be similar. But if he's slow, that ain't going to help him because Tank Davis ain't slow. Kermel makes Pitbull look tall. Really? I'd like to see them stand beside each other. Maybe we could find out more about him. What do they say about Kermel Moten? How tall is boxer Kermel Moten? What do you say, Kermel Mountain? He is 5'4", 163 centimeters. As an amateur, 61-3. But what did he win as an amateur? I don't think he did much. Oh, look, who did he lose his last fight as an amateur? Who's that? I think that guy has more upside than fucking Moses. That's Shakur's cousin. Shakur's cousin who was 22-6 as an amateur. How come they don't even have a picture of the kid? He's 19, 5'9", right? Obviously a dude that's going to be much more of a natural fighter. There's nowhere near as good as Tank. I looked it up. It says 5'2". What did I just say? 5'3"? No, it says 5'4". People always like when I played basketball, I was 6 foot tall, even though I'm definitely not 6 foot tall. So what good fighters did he beat in his career? Not that he had to, because he was super young, but he didn't beat any amateur fighters that were fucking any good at all. Everybody had fucking one win, one draw, no wins, and a bunch of losses. The best guy he fought was Moses, who was 11-4, and beat him by split decision. Moses, on the other hand, who did he fight? Oh, there he is. Moses, I definitely think he's got more of a chance to have a big upside. He fought better competition. 14-7, 18-19, 14-7, 7-3, 7-4, 39-4, 11-11, 3-0, 61-2. Moten, who he beat, 61-2, right? That's way better than anyone Moten beat. Yeah. And now he's a pro fighter too. What's his record as a pro? 2-0, 1 KO. 5'9", 19 years old. His next fight is going to be April 12th. He just beat a guy in Mario Garcia who was 3-0 in his second fight. Stopped him in one round. Not bad. Moses is going to be fighting at Atlantic City. Oh, there he is. That's a good card. April 12th, Boots Ennis, Raymond Ford, Shakram Gizioff, Omari Jones, and Moses. That's a good card. Good card from Atlantic City. Shakram and Omari Jones don't have opponents yet, but otherwise, that's not bad. Who's this guy, Tamir Smalls? I think I heard his name too. Ah, okay. He looks like he's also related to Shakur. 13-0, 9 KOs from Philadelphia. Yeah, that card's going to be good. Good. Carmel is the next Mayweather. No way. No way is that true. AD said that he likes saying he is 6'10", so he can play power forward. Well, that's the same thing a lot of centers did. I think Elijah was similar. I think Moses is ready for Hrgovic caliber. Oh, God. Hrgovic, right? Going to fight Joe Joyce. That shit's good. That's going to be a fucking fun fight. Yep, Boots versus Stanionis. Can't wait. 30 minutes from my house. Atlantic City used to be the mecca of boxing. Facts. True. That card is just good. You should definitely go see it, Jay Will. Atlantic City, that card is going to be pretty entertaining, and you got some good fighters. I think what's his face is on that card because isn't he going to be a mandatory for Boots? Shakram Gizioff. I think he's like, yeah, isn't he like mandatory right now? 16-0, 9 KOs. Obviously, good fighter from Uzbekistan, the Wonder Boy. Not a bad resume, but obviously doesn't have the big names on it. But pretty good resume from day one since he turned pro. It's just surprising it's taken him this long to even get a world title fight, right? Like when you think about how some guys get opportunities so quick. He's 31 years old, and he's going to have to beat whoever he fights, and maybe his next fight is going to be against Boots Ennis for a world title. Tank has a brother that looks pretty good. A lot of people picking Stanios to beat Boots. Thunderdome thinks Boots gets destroyed in that fight. Well, let's be honest. Thunderdome pretty much consistently picks against the black fighter all the time. So I ain't surprised he's picking Stanionis to win that fight. Funduro and Kambosos, I believe, fight this weekend. Yes. I don't know if Kambosos is fighting on the weekend or when he's fighting. But obviously it's in Australia. Funduro is fighting. Yeah. Do you see England? England's national team was picked, and England picked Liverpool's ex-player, fucking Henderson. Nobody can believe that guy fucking made the England squad. That shit looks ridiculous. Ridiculous. But what was I saying? Okay. My prediction league. There's my predictions for the fights. Why did it butcher some of my stuff? BoxRec, what does it do? Some crazy shit. So I got Funduro by split decision. Ramos by 5th round TKO on that card. Which Garcia is on that card? I have split decision. Kambosos I got by, what the fuck, man? Get back, man. Some crazy shit. Kambosos I got by split decision. Sky I got by majority decision. Johnson, another woman, split decision. Katiev, the crazy Russian fighter, by 7th round TKO. Montgomery, good looking young kid. America, good knockout record. I got him by 8th round knockout. Lester Martinez, 168-pound fighter, looked good. I got him by 10th round TKO. Lucero, isn't that the good kid from Argentina? I think. I could be wrong. But needless to say, some good fights. Kambosos wins. He's probably find himself another title shot, still eating off that Tio win. Well, he's potentially going to fight Hitchens, right? They've been fucking going back and forth like crazy. I saw Clarissa was officially unsuspended. Isn't it ironic that she's unsuspended? So does that mean that Keyshawn Davis is going to get his victory back versus the dude that he beat? Right? Because Keyshawn ended up losing a fight. I mean, he won the fight, but it ended up becoming a no contest because marijuana was in his system. Funduro by split. Interesting. Well, I don't think Funduro is going to destroy that kid that he's fighting. That kid is a good fighter, and I think Funduro is garbage. So you put one and one together, it equals fucking two. Like let's just put the box rec up. Where are we? There we go. Oh, Elijah Garcia. That's a tough fight, really. The Elijah Garcia fight. That fight is a tough one to predict. A real tough one. Difference is that Shields only had trace amounts, which supports her argument that she inhaled it through secondhand smoke. Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about Keyshawn's situation. I think he was in Texas. Not sure if that matters. Well, Texas, yeah, it probably does matter, right? They used to say they bury you under the prison in Texas. But yeah, Funduro 21-1 versus Booker 23-1 for his two unified titles. Booker, not much of a puncher, 33 years old. I think he's a pretty good, difficult fight. Obviously, lost to Ammo Williams by first round TKO. Oh, I didn't know he got fucking blown out so quick by Ammo. Oh, maybe I need to change my prediction now. I thought he'd be more resilient. I couldn't remember the way his loss went. But in hindsight, he might have no chin. Elijah Garcia versus fucking Guasha, that's tough. Especially since Elijah, who I was super stoked about, ended up taking a loss, right? I mean, he's super young, but you lose to veteran fighter Kyrone Davis by split decision, and now you're jumping in to fight Terrell Guasha next. Man, the PBC ain't giving that kid a fucking break. They're putting him in tough. Like you put him with Kyrone Davis and then Guasha back to back. You're almost putting it in there so that he potentially will have two losses in his resume. And the kid's good for a 21-year-old from the States, southpaw, 6 foot tall, 71-inch reach. He got skills, man. Like whenever I watched him fight before that Davis fight, I was super excited. I thought he was the real fucking deal. Jesus Ramos, he dropped the ball. Obviously, 22-1, 18 KOs. That one loss, controversial to Erickson Lubin, a fight he should have won easily. Since has bounced back with 2 wins and now fighting who? Who the fuck is this guy? Guido Emmanuel fucking Schramm. 16-3-2. I can tell you, I've never fucking heard of this kid in my life. Argentinian kid. Fucking Guido Emmanuel. Who has he fought? Coming off of back-to-back losses and a draw? Man, just looks like a cherry pick. Think about that and how things are. Like, honestly, guys, you throw Elijah Garcia in with Terrell Guasha coming off of a loss. For Ramos, you throw him in with this fucking bum-ass Argentinian who literally is coming off of 2 losses and a draw. Guasha is a good fighter. Sure, he's coming off of a loss to fucking Carlos Adames, a world champion who just fucking beat Hamza Shiraz in sensational fashion in his last fight as well. You can't make this shit up. You can't make this shit up. Like, literally, they look like they're trying to fucking ruin the kid. Ruin him. Elijah lost me a big parlay versus Kyrone. Oh, yeah. Ramos is super middleweight, disguised as a super welterweight. Yeah. Yeah, man. That's some crazy matchmaking, boy. And this guy, Fuentes Rojas, 14-0, 11 KOs. fighting Maurice Lee, 15-1 and 2. Obviously, they're not putting him in too tough. He's 26 years old. He's fighting nobody special. We will see. Overall, it's a pretty good card. I'm excited. And then, of course, you got this Australian card with lots of women boxing. Sharika Johnson, Nina Hughes. If you're a woman boxing fan, you should like it. Sky Nicholson versus Tiara Brown, two undefeated fighters for a world title. If you're a women's boxing fan, you should love it. Kambosos versus who? Who's this guy? Jake Wiley, 16-1, 15 KOs, 1 KO loss, a no decision in his last fight. We go back and he got knocked out by a kid that was 0-2. He been fighting a lot of domestic level bum ass fucking opponents. So, yeah, even fucking George Kambosos should be able to beat that guy. And then this guy, my man, Iman Katiev, 9-0, 9 KOs. A mean motherfucker from Eastern Europe fighting out of Australia. And this guy was a killer amateur as well. 88-22 as an amateur. IBA Pro, 1-0. Who did he beat? Great Cuban fighter, Arlen Lopez. Beat him in Phuket in a 5-round fight. Not bad. He's one to pay attention to, even though he's 30 years old. So he's really on the fast track, right? Fast track. And who's this kid? This kid's getting tons of attention. You know, what's his name? Teramona Jr., 6-0, 6 knockouts, heavyweight, 6'6", 27 years old, coming off of a destruction in his last fight. He's getting a lot of attention. He should be a good one to watch for sure. But, you know, overall, I mean, it's not the best or biggest weekend of boxing, but not bad, right? With the card from Australia, you know, like I said, I'm not a big women's boxing fan, but those two fights, at least you have real competitive matchups. The Kambosos fight, he should get a sensational knockout, which will be good for him. But then you got the Russian kid and this heavyweight. Those two fights should be interesting. And then the PBC fight card, we will see. Anything can happen. What did Salgado get injury? Wait, why? Who was Salgado supposed to fight? That's not the original opponent for Ramos. It was Salgado. Oh, well, that's probably why the opponent looks so shit. But even Salgado, right? Not the kind of opponent you really want to see Ramos fight. It's about time you got some big opponents and stop cherry picking fucking mediocre guys, but oh well. But everybody, thanks for jumping in. I'm going to take it easy and jet since I have to work tomorrow. So peace out, everyone. I will see you later this week. Thanks for jumping in. Peace out. Have a good one.